Plusieurs experts l'affirment, Bobby Orr est le plus grand joueur de l'histoire de la Ligue nationale de hockey. Il est le seul défenseur à avoir remporté, pas un, mais 2 championnats des compteurs. Plus de 40 ans après sa retraite, c'est ici, en Floride, que nous le rencontrons, dans cet hôtel, le Wyndham Grand Jupiter. Je l'ai rencontré avec mon collègue Jacques Demers. Jacques, nous avons la chance aujourd'hui d'accueillir peut-être, même certainement, le plus grand joueur de l'histoire de la Ligue nationale de hockey. Mr. Bobby Orr is with us, the greatest hockey player that has ever laced skates. Whether you like it or not, that's going to be, whether you like it or not, it's going to be like this.
According to,
it is going back to Montreal.
According to Serge Savard, a Hall of Famer, his good friend had passed away, Carol Vadnais. And there was a lot of great ones. They say he was the best. So when you have a Hall of Famer like Serge Savard,
I think a lot of
who's
people
won
are
8 cups, so
thank you.
And I know that Yvan Cournoyer and a lot of the guys you play in the different championships or played against, they feel that way.
How did hockey come about in your life in Parry Sound?
Well, we're a small community. That was our big sport. Every kid in Parry Sound played. We had to wait our turn to go indoors. We had one rink, and we had a lot of kids playing at different levels, so we had to wait our turn. So we played a lot outdoors, on the bay, on the river.
On the Georgian Bay?
On the Georgian Bay. I can remember flooding the rink at our school, so in the morning we'd go in and flood it and skate at recess and skate in the evening, and at lunchtime we would skate, so that's what we did. That was our fun, and we had wonderful volunteers when we get into the rink for coaches, and we had great coaches who taught us not only to play the game, but taught us good values, like being a good person, being a good teammate, sharing, and so on. So it was a wonderful organization with wonderful volunteers.
Bobby, we all have at one point someone that really has been tremendously influential, that you can't look back any deep with some of those people. You remember certain people that got you to grow up as a solid man, and obviously the talent was there, but brought you up nicely when you were a young kid, young boy.
I was very lucky. I had a lot of great coaches. The one year I commuted to Oshawa, we didn't have cars. My dad had to work, so we had a lot of people that would volunteer to drive me. We played most of our games on the weekends. As I said, our coaches were wonderful, but the most influential person, my parents, and especially my dad. My mother didn't follow hockey that closely, but my dad did, and my dad would come to me and say, look, a lot of people are telling me you're going to be a pro and all this, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. The advice from my father was to go out and have fun, we'll see what happens. And I just wish more parents would look at it like that.
They should.
If your child is good enough and he likes the game, has a passion for the game, and then he's got a chance. And what we're doing to our kids is driving them away.
In Parry Sound, obviously, you were playing hockey, but you were not always playing hockey. You were playing shinny as well.
I would like to see that more often. How often do you see the kids on the street today? You don't see.
We don't have big families anymore. We used to.
But we just don't see the kids out by themselves. Yeah. And we played more without coaches than we did with coaches. And we dropped the puck, and if you didn't learn to skate or handle the puck, it wasn't much fun. So, we had a big ice surface when we cleaned off a great spot on the bay or on the river. And we'd just do it for hours. And that's really how we learned to skate and handle the puck, and we were having fun doing it.
You had to leave home at a very young age, 15 years old, 14, 15. How is that? Because the parents said, my boy's gone now. How would you lived in a billet, a family? So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
It was where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. I was happiest when I was playing hockey, whether it be practicing or playing. So it was where I wanted to be. I got homesick like heck. I mean,
you did come back a couple of times.
Oh yes,
you did hitchhike
home.
Yeah.
And then talking to the young players leaving, I said, "Hey, you're going to be home." "No, I won't be home. Yeah, you get homesick. You miss mom and dad and brothers and sisters." So I was very homesick. But again, I was very lucky. The guys I played with who looked after me. They took me under their wings. I had wonderful billets. I had a billet that if we missed school or we were late for curfew, they would report us. And back then I said, isn't that awful? Today it was the right thing to do. But no, I've had wonderful support the whole way, whether it be parents, the coaches, local folks in the community. When I got to Oshawa, the players. So I've been a very lucky guy.
Bobby, what is, according to Bobby Orr, passion? As a coach, I had the passion, and I've been fortunate to have 14 of my players who are in the Hall of Fame, and they were all passionate. They had that thing about the drive. What is it according to you?
Well, and again, in talking to young players, talking to the parents, I asked the question often, why was I successful? And I was successful because of the love and the passion I had for the game. I love this game. The passion, I couldn't think of doing anything else. I mean, this is what I want to do. And we all have levels we play at. Like, you've seen players forever, and knowing you, if a player was at this level, that's where you want him to play.
Absolutely.
You know, we all can't play at Sidney Crosby's level, but you do have a level.
Fun and be passionate about it.
And you have to be passionate about playing at your level. And you've got to continue to love this game. And what we do to our kids today, in many cases, we just suck that love and passion out of our kids by the pressures we put on them, the expectations. And if the parents would just understand, leave the kids alone.
Let them play.
If they've got it, they're going to get a chance to play. And you know it's only a chance.
We look at old films of you, 1960s, early 70s, and we see you skate, and we see, it's like Back to the Future. How would you describe your skating? It seemed to us like it's effortless. You were a great skater.
I don't know how to describe it.
It looked easy.
It looked easy.
But again, I go back to the way we were brought up, the way we skated, the way what I was allowed to do. We get these little kids today, and the coach is saying to them, don't skate over the blue line, shoot it in. Don't skate over the blue line, shoot it in. Let them skate with it. And I was, from Bucko McDonald to Royce Tennant to Tommy Maxwell, those are my three coaches, minor hockey league coaches in Parry Sound. They let me go. And that's what we have to do with our kids. You get a little fella at a Pee Wee level or even a Bantam level, let him go. If he can skate, let him go. I mean, that's how I learned to skate. Again, I don't know how to describe my skating. It's just that, that's the way I played.
It seemed to be effortless.
And I was allowed to do it.
Okay.
They let me do it, even at the pro level. And when I went into the pros, you didn't play like that. You're supposed to stay back. And again,
you didn't.
And again, the Bruins allowed me to do that. And I could not have been as successful as I was if I had to sit back. I mean, as I'm getting to the end, that was really, people talk about pressure. I didn't feel the pressure until I wasn't able to do what I once did.
When I was reading the book, I was stunned. Before you signed your C form with the Boston Bruins, you were 14 years old at the time. You were then a member of the Boston Bruins. You couldn't sign with any other team, but you had a visit. You had a visit at your home in Parry Sound of a guy who became a great coach in the NHL, Scotty Bowman.
Yeah.
You could have been a Montreal Canadian. Is that what you're telling me right now?
I think the story goes, I think Scotty looked at me twice. He came up in the summertime. You check with Scotty, I think this is the way it goes. But he came up in the summertime, and we were playing baseball. We weren't even on the ice. And he looked at me, and I wasn't very big. And I think at that time I was in grade 8.
Okay.
And he went. Then we get into the Gananoque in a series, and he was also at that game.
Okay.
So he goes back to the Canadians and says, look, there's this kid, he's 14, he's grade 8, and we're not taking 14-year-old kids in grade 8. That's too young, and we're not going there.
And I think Kenny Reardon was chief recruiter at the time for the Canadians.
Scotty went back to Kenny.
Okay.
Yes, that's the story. No,
and so they didn't sign you.
I wasn't aware of the story. Scotty told me about the story later.
So that's why you signed the C form with the Boston Bruins.
I mean, there were a couple other teams. Detroit was
Toronto.
there. And Toronto. I mean, I think the letter's in the book. It's a letter from one of the organizers in Parry Sound to Bob David. I think it was Bob Davidson in Toronto. And he wasn't ready, too young to do it there. So Ren Blair lived in Parry Sound until we agreed to sign that C form, and Boston sponsored Parry Sound minor hockey for a couple
of years afterwards.
Yes.
Bobby, you met Mr. Hockey at the age 12, and hopefully now as we talk, he's doing better. And I had the opportunity to coach against him in the WHA, coach him in 3 All-Star games, down to earth, simple, with his 2 sons. Gordie Howe, it seems those older players or those great players from the past, they always seem to have that humbleness about them that is unbelievable. But that meant a lot for you, and to meet him at that age, because you knew at that age who he was, for sure.
I remember Gordie coming to Parry Sound. I went fishing with him. Mr. Tennant, who you brought me an article from the newspapers that Mr. Tennant did, but Royce Tennant had a camp, and Gordie was going out there, and they invited me out to fish, and I fished with Gordie Howe. I can remember he was there. I think it was Eaton's. He used to do the advertising for the fishing gear and so on. And he came to Parry Sound to do an appearance, and I stood in line and met Gordie and went fishing with him.
How old were you?
12.
12?
Yeah,
Okay.
12.
That's the first time you met Gordie Howe.
Yeah. But he's a special man. I mean, I look at Gordie, I look at Jean.
Jean Beliveau.
I mean, these 2 guys, class, like they are.
So you met him at 12. You meet him again at 18, your first NHL game against Detroit Red Wings.
I was looking at my pretty pass.
Okay.
And the next thing you know, I was laying on the ice. Gordie.
Welcomed you to the NHL.
Gordie wanted to tell the rookie that he was still the man.
Yeah.
But I was looking at my pretty pad, and bang.
You went fishing with me. Yeah, you went fishing with me, but that's over with.
Is he, according to you, the greatest hockey player that played the game?
Without question. I often sit and Google his numbers, and to your viewers, do it. It's hilarious. I mean, 25 years of 20 or top 5 scoring. I mean, just go and look at it. I mean, what this man did, play any way you wanted. If you think about, people say he was tough. Well, he had to be tough. I mean, everybody in the world was going after him. I mean, that's when
he was tough.
And in 6th, well, Eddie Westfall would maybe shadow him, but Eddie wasn't outrageous with him. Some of these guys are crazy with him, and Gordie had to protect himself. He had to be like he was and do things that he had to do to protect himself. But if you look at his numbers, in my mind, I mean, my God, I mean what he did and how long he played.
And tough.
And tough. He play any way you want. Had skills. Shoot left-handed, shoot right-handed. He could shoot any way you want. Either way he would shoot, and he just.
But you know what? A lot of people say exactly the same thing about Bobby Orr. You talk to Serge Savard, he's going to say he's the greatest player that has ever played the game. You talk to Bobby Hull. Bobby Hull came to our show, and Bobby Hull told us a story.
He came up in '65, and we're playing in Boston. First period's over. Frank Adveri is a referee. Orr was 2-0 Boston. Orr had both of the goals, and he had the puck all first period. So I said, went over to Frank, and I said, Frank, what are we going to do about this blonde-haired kid? He said, Bobby, what do you want to do? What do you want to do with him? I said, let's do this. Why don't you give him the puck that he had all first period and just throw another one out there for us for the rest?
So thank you.
So a lot of great athletes are saying the same thing about you.
I mean, one of the issues with me is longevity. I didn't play very long. Yeah. I mean, you know, I played okay for the period I played, but going back to a Gordie, I mean, I had accomplishments during my period, and who knows, but Gordie was there. He was there for 25, 30 years.
Messier,
Gretz, Wayne. Unfortunately, Mario didn't.
Same thing.
Mario, I mean, to me, Mario Lemieux was the most talented players I've ever seen. I mean, his skills. If Mario hadn't got sick, my God, I think he's the most talented player I've ever seen. More talent than anybody.
Bobby Orr behind the net to Sanderson. Bobby Orr from the Boston
Bobby Orr n'avait que 14 ans et déjà il appartenait aux Bruins de Boston, une équipe qui vivotait au milieu des années 60. L'arrivée de Bobby Orr et une transaction majeure allaient complètement chambouler l'ordre établi, les Bruins devenant une équipe gagnante et Bobby Orr une légende.
1966, after 4 years with Oshawa, it's your first pro camp with the Boston Bruins. What was your mindset going into that first pro camp at 18 years old?
Well, I didn't. All I know was, you know, I knew I had to play 4 years in Oshawa. And 18, I'd get a chance to go to a camp, and that's. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to make this team. In those days, you remember, Jacques, you could be sent to the minor league teams.
Yes.
So I had no idea where I was going to be sent or how well I'd do. And I went into camp just, again, when I'm on the ice, that's when I'm the happiest. And now I'm there with the pros, and so I was, you know, just trying to play my game. And as training camp went on, players would be called into the GM's office.
Yeah.
It's a center court, and we could see the players walking across the sea, and they'd be sending them to different places. They called me in and told me I was going back to Boston to finish training camp. And wow, this is great, and you'll probably start the season. So,
Mill Schmidt makes the trade that when he brought Esposito, for sure Ken Hodge and Fred Stanfield. You have to remember that, you know, restraints you don't forget.
Well, and people don't realize it was Milt, the major trade. I mean, we had, you know, Sanderson coming and Marcotte coming, and McKenzie was there, Chief was there, Green was there, so we had some players. And then we get, you know, Stanfield, Hodge, and Esposito, and I'm not sure that many thought that they were going to end up accomplishing what they did with us, but they all of a sudden, again, there's a case of being impatient with players, and we are impatient with players. You see, so Cam Neely couldn't play in Vancouver, okay, but those three guys come in, and now we put them all together. That
changes the franchise.
That is really what made our team. We had some, you know, I say Derek was coming, he was Rookie of the Year, and we had some good players with Pye and Johnny McKenzie and Busick and Donnie Orey, Gary Doak. So we had a good group.
In 1969, the Boston Bruins were beaten by the Montreal Canadiens, but you guys learned something really important: how to win the Stanley Cup. That's what you did the year after that.
I believe you have to be ready to win. I mean, you can be close, and we were close. You know, we were beaten by a very good team. Darn them. But you have to be ready to win, and we learned a lot the year before we won. In defeat, and I think you can learn in defeat, and I think the big thing, it's a tough goal to reach.
Bobby, I arrived in St. Louis 1983 to coach the Blues, and my assistant coach was Barclay Plager, and you had Bob Plager. And even today, Greg Gilbert of the Montreal Canadiens scored a goal. A lot of people talk about Bobby Orr, and that they showed it so many times in Montreal, all over Canada. 45 years after that goal, people still talk about it. Still, there's been some great goals, but this seems, is it because of the importance of that goal?
Well, I think the importance.
It was a hell of a goal.
Importance of the goal, and the photographer got a pretty good photo. The best story about the goal, though, is each time I see Glenn Hall, he looks at me and he says, "Is that the only goal you ever scored?" He said, "Is that the only one?"
Yeah, we see this picture everywhere.
Yeah, it's.
Well, when you see this picture, I mean, to us it seems like you're going crazy, but you're not. No, you just scored. It was your first goal in this series.
Should have had 2 minutes for diving.
Yeah. Well, yeah. you would get that today. But it was your only goal in this series. That was the winning goal.
Obviously, and I'm not trying to be humble or anything. Obviously, I was thrilled to score the goal. But we won the Stanley Cup that day. Yeah. That was, you know, you've been there. That was the big thing to be part of that Stanley Cup team. And again, the goal was wonderful. I mean, I can remember the next morning at the hotel with my father and the old record. I think it was the Record American. And my dad was reading it. It was a center when he pulled it out, and the photo of flying through the air was there. So, but you know, it was a great photo. And a great time for the Boston Bruins and their fans.
I mean, 1972, the Summit Series, you know, you're in a team, but you can't play it. That's got to break your heart. You want to play against the best.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a challenge for you. And you're there.
Yep.
My gosh, that had to be a tough one.
I think that was one of the greatest victories in all sports. Going over there, and I think some people understand how difficult the situation was over there with food, and it was tough. And to go there and have to win 3 of 4, losing the first one, and then come back and win 3 in a row in Russia, it was unbelievable. That Russian team. Back then, there were Russians, right? It was a great team.
It's 1972, and 1972 in September is training camp usually in the NHL. And it's really a training camp in 1972. People, those hockey players have drank beer all summer long, and they go to camp.
Now, how do you know that?
Well, yeah, but they go to camp to train for the next season. And the Summit Series came in September of 72, so those guys weren't in shape when they met the Russians.
Well, they knew they were going to camp, so I think they were skating. There was, I don't know, a couple of weeks, I think, before the team was selected.
Yeah, but everybody said Canadians are going to clobber those guys. They can't play.
Well, we didn't know. We had no idea what was coming. The scouting reports came back. Tretiak can't play goal.
That's right.
That's it.
Our scouts were going over to Europe, but they never put the players together. So first game in Montreal, Frank scores, Phil scores, it's 2-0. We went to practice. No, the day before we went to practice, and their passes were off. We left. I said, this is going to be a joke. So the first game, it's 2-0 Canada, and then all of a sudden, we couldn't get the puck. They never gave it up, and they were a heck of a team. Then we go to Toronto, we win a close game, 2-1. It was an unbelievable game. It was a great game. Then we tie in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
We lose in Vancouver.
Lose the first game in Moscow.
Lose the first. Now we have to win 3 in a row. No. Unbelievable.
Bobby, the players felt a lot of pressure to representing Canada. You're looking back.
I think that I don't know. Pressure. They're representing Canada. The responsibility.
Yeah,
the responsibility to represent Canada. When you get on the ice, I hear players say, my confidence. Are you kidding me? At a professional level, you're losing your confidence.
Oh, I like this.
Yeah, you don't lose your confidence at this level, but the players, when those players go and they feel a responsibility to represent their company. The pressure, once they drop that puck, hey, you played. You dropped that puck. Let's go.
Were you surprised at the Soviet style of play?
Someone said to me at the time, and I don't recall who it was. They said, boy, they would never shoot it in. Never shot the puck in. They would take it back. And someone said, geez, Wilger and I don't play like they play. And I said, no, I don't think so. I said, they're going to start playing like we play. And that's what's happened. And now they shoot it in. But I can remember going over to Prague and going into a rink, and there'd be 16 stations set up, all skills, with the kids. Yeah. And that's, skill-wise, they were much better than us, handling the puck and controlling the puck and passing the puck. They really were at that time. And we woke up. I think we woke up. We had to. And not that team, but overall on how to play the game. I think Canada, United States, we woke up. North America woke up a little bit when we saw what was going on. And I think when our players are allowed to use their skills today, we got a lot of good skilled players when they're allowed to use them.
Very, very happy that I attempted to play again. I now know for sure that my leg cannot handle playing. I'm disappointed, but I am relieved. I would not want to go through the rest of my life thinking, well, maybe there was that chance. I now know I'm no longer able to play.
Bobby Orr n'aura joué qu'une seule décennie dans la Ligue nationale de hockey. Les nombreuses blessures au genou l'ont empêché de poursuivre sa carrière. Nous revenons sur Coupe Canada 1976, une fin de carrière vraiment en apothéose. Et il sera aussi question de celui qui l'a floué, Allen Eagleson.
Bobby, 1976 Canada Cup Series, you come back. Everybody says it. You didn't say that, but you were outstanding. You were felt good about yourself, but that was also a big series.
For me, that was the only time I played for Canada in an international series. So obviously, it was huge, and I was having trouble. But if you look at that team, it was pretty easy to play on. Look at that defense.
It was probably the best team ever assembled.
Well, I mean, I don't get into best teams, but it was a pretty good team.
This one was pretty
It
good,
was a
yeah.
pretty good team. That defense was Serge and Guy and Larry.
Oh, if you compare it to the one in '72, it was a much better team in '76.
Well,
you weren't there in '72.
No.
Bobby Hull wasn't there
Yeah.
in '72.
But that was a good team, and that was a fun series. I'm happy I played there. Many are saying or thinking that that was the one that put me over the edge with my leg. That's not so. I was playing. That was my only chance. I was playing, and I was going to play, hurt or not. And it's not what really put me over. My knee was going.
But did you think at that point that the 1976 Canada Cup was going to be your last hurrah?
It was in the back of my head. Yes.
Oh, it was.
Yes. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. I was having a very, very tough time. But again, playing on a team like that, you didn't have to do as much.
No.
You know, you'd be moving it quicker. You know, and Dennis, we forgot about Dennis.
Yes.
That's pretty good defense. So, you know, I knew it was getting close.
Hall of Famers.
Yep.
Hall of Famers.
All of them.
But I knew it was getting close.
How many operations total in your knee?
I think both knees
knees, yeah.
prior to the replacements, I've replaced them both. I think I'm in 18, 19, 20, somewhere in there. That's scopes where they're going to just clean it out. And so I'm...
Story is true that you can stand up, you can sit down at the bench, and somebody just stood up so you could do your other shift.
Sometimes
the knee would
difficult
buckle
to get there. I mean, it's really funny with when I felt it go. I mean, one day we're playing in Detroit, and I stepped up to go on the ice, and it just gave out on me and locked. Another time I got off a chair, and it locked. And it's the pieces floating in the joint. The joint was closing up, so it was pretty beat up in there, and I would get in certain positions, do certain things, and would snap, and a piece would break off.
How many games did you play in the NHL in perfect condition?
Not many. Not many. Early on, I was fine.
Okay.
And early in, when I first started having the knee problems, it wasn't bad. But as, you know, when I get into that 5th year, 6th year, it started to bother me, yes.
I never met anybody who told me you weren't a good guy, but I also heard from people you have a temper.
No.
Yes,
No.
yes.
Who have you been talking to?
Trust me, the question I'm going to ask you, don't fool around with Bobby. So, and that comes from good sources. You were offered part ownership in the Boston Bruins, and you weren't told. Did that temper come out when you found out?
No, I don't. I mean, the stories went on. And I didn't. I mean, I was going on with my life. So it turns out there was a piece of before I went to Chicago, a piece of the club offered to me as part of my contract.
Obviously, we are talking about Alan Eagleson. Alan Eagleson not only hurt you, but hurt a lot of players. He was disbarred, he went to jail, and he also lost his Order of Canada.
I'm not the only one. I mean,
No.
He hurt a lot of players, and I write about him in the book, and I didn't want to even make him part of the book, but the publishers insisted. So, I just, I don't know if you've ever had a person that you thought was your best friend.
Yeah. We've had.
Do
feel
something to you. It's difficult. I don't have any interest in seeing him, talk to him.
You gave so much to the game, Bobby. That's my compliment, my saying right now. You gave so much to the game, you deserve better. That's all I can say.
It's and talking to the kids today again. It's I didn't pay attention, and
You played hockey.
yeah, that's right.
Well, you're an agent today,
but there is, I would just, I should have paid attention. I wasn't talking to the kids today, guys. It's your money. Learn to read a financial statement. Just simple. It's your money.